Kia ora koutou, welcome to this week's live. I've spent a couple of days in Auckland. I've just got back to Wellington. Today is my first day back in the office, where incidentally in Auckland it was 28 degrees yesterday, which was very summery. I spent a lot of time networking, catching up with people, connecting with some awesome individuals, and as any introvert will tell you, now I'm back at home, spending the day by myself in the office alone, not really talking to anyone apart from you guys. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is summer school. The second class of summer school kicks off on Monday. It isn't too late to join. I'm actually going to put details in the comments of a part-time version. If you wanted to just attend a few of these classes instead of the whole thing, then we've got that option available. I'll pop it in the comments so you can get more info. But the reason I want to give you a bit of a sneak preview of what's coming up at summer school on Monday night is because it's a topic, as you know, close to my heart. As you know, something we talk about a lot, imposter syndrome. But here's the thing, imposter syndrome is not a one size fits all. There's different categories within that, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. Because it manifests differently for different people. And when I tell you what the categories are, you might kind of see yourself in, or people you know well, in some of these categories, and it starts to make a bit more sense. Because one of the things I talk about a lot with imposter syndrome, and one of the things that resonates with so many of us, is perfectionism. Now, being a perfectionist and having imposter syndrome are very closely linked. The two are almost one of the same thing. And being a perfectionist is one of the categories that exists within imposter syndrome. Now, these categories come from a lady called Dr. Valerie Young. She wrote a book called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women. And perfectionism is the category that, as we all know, particularly if you are a perfectionist, there is one of two things happen when you do something. It's either perfect and therefore a success, or good enough but therefore a failure. There's no middle ground. Anything that isn't perfect in a perfectionist's eyes is failure. And it drives us to work twice as hard as everybody else. It leads to burnout. It's a really difficult place to be when you're a perfectionist. And it's so closely linked to our imposter syndrome because there is this need to prove ourselves when we have imposter syndrome. And that can lead to perfectionism, where we're trying to prove ourselves worthy, often to ourselves. And the other categories that exist within imposter syndrome, there's the genius category. Now, these are people that are naturally clever. So you can imagine the kids in school that came top of the class all the time, seemingly without effort. These are the geniuses. However, when you think about top of the class at school, go to top university, probably get a job at a top company, you all of a sudden have a collection of people that are used to being top of the class all the time, and they can't all be top of the class. And that's where their imposter syndrome rears its head. If we're not top of the class, it means we're not as good as people think we are. That's the genius. The other category is expert. Now, with an expert, you have to know everything. And if you don't know the answers to everything, you feel like a fraud. You feel like an imposter. With experts, you tend to find that even if they've got a PhD or several degrees up their sleeve, they will say to you things like, oh, I'm going to go for another job or a career change or a promotion. I might need to retrain in this, or go and study this, or do a paper in this. There's always more knowledge to be acquired by an expert to prove their imposter syndrome wrong. And one of my favourites, and one that resonates with me, is a soloist. These people, it's only success if you do it all by yourself. And if there's a team that's helped you, or you've had to delegate or ask for support, then it's not success in your eyes, and that's where your imposter syndrome rears its head. So with soloists, you'll find that they do struggle to delegate and ask for support. That's where their imposter syndrome manifests. And of course, there's another category called Superwoman, which is a bit of all of the above. It's not just the quality of a perfectionist, but it's the quantity as well. So they are the categories that exist within imposter syndrome. That's what we're doing a deep dive into on Monday night at summer school in Wellington. If you want to be a part of that, have a look in the comments, click the link. You can come along to some of the classes that we're doing. They run for the next 3 weeks on a Monday night. What else is happening? I've got a free training actually running live in the Facebook group. Next week on Wednesday at lunchtime. It will be on imposter syndrome. So if you want to ask me questions or just listen to some top tips, then over lunchtime on Wednesday next week, we'll be doing a free live training in the Facebook group. Make sure you're a member of that, and the Empowering Women Facebook group. That'll be linked to my page. And it'll be your opportunity to listen in, but also ask some questions as well. And of course, we've got next month's Imposter Syndrome event as well. So if you're a woman in business, next month at the Lower Hutt Douse Art Museum, then we have a half-day session in the week to particularly deep dive on imposter syndrome specifically for women in business. So lots of things coming up. Hope you're all having a great week and have a wonderful weekend. Mā te wā.